The Senate congratulates the new bishop designate. BWA staff will have to wait a while longer to find out how many of them will be going home. And the chairman of the Private Sector Association believes they will benefit significantly from the new tax measures.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
And good evening, I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, members of the Senate spent much of this morning's session heaping praise and congratulations on Bishop-designate Senator Michael Maxwell. Leader of government business in that chamber, Dr. Jerome Walcott, led off the session, and he reminded Senator Maxwell that people are at the core of the church and that they need his strong, compassionate and visionary leadership at this time.
As parliamentarians, we are entrusted with the privilege and responsibility to legislate on a full range of national issues and concerns that affect all Barbadians. As Bishop, it will be Senator Maxwell's duty to cultivate and encourage the spiritual welfare of our people, shaded as they are from a prolonged recessionary period. We therefore will look forward to his sincere messages of hope and renewal of the church and indeed of our nation.
Opposition Senator Caswell Franklin says he is looking forward to the impact a youthful bishop will have on the church and the country.
I am hopeful that he will be able to attract some of our youth into the church, because we are seeing what's happening in the country today, sir, and our youth are going astray, and I'm grateful to the bishops of the diocese of the West Indies that they saw fit to put a youthful person as bishop, one who still has a lot of vigor. And I'm sure he has the strength and energy to handle both posts, bishop and senator.
Independent Senator Monique Tate is relieved that a decision has finally been made and a choice appears to have been accepted by all involved. Senator Tate told the upper chamber that the Anglican Church and Barbados are in good hands.
He is engaging, he is friendly, and his church loves him, hands down. He's the type of priest that will allow the Anglican Church, I believe, to heal. And just by listening to the interviews that he has started to participate in to date, I am heartened by his plans for the future for the Anglican Church and the return of God at the helm of all things in this country.
And the President of the Senate, Sir Richard Cheltenham, says the new bishop designate has a role to play in bringing the country out of the space in which it has found itself.
The church, generally speaking, of every denomination has to attract more members. As for the Anglican Church, it has to ensure a continuing interest in its messages and rituals while not abandoning its traditions. It has to ensure that it refashions itself to appeal to a new generation. Its message must seek, among other things, to restore respect for the symbols of authority, and the church must campaign for a more just and humane society at every level.
Well, Sir Richard also asked Senator Maxwell not to rush to leave the Senate because of his pending appointment. Returning to God is the only way Barbados will get out of the economic and social problems in which it has found itself. This from Anglican Bishop-designate Reverend Michael Maxwell as he thanked fellow senators for their congratulatory remarks in the upper chamber this morning. He has also promised to work with the government and all other entities to make things better in Barbados.
Not just on the economical side, but of course, more importantly, in my opinion, on the spiritual side of returning to the ways of God, because that is the only way we can have the best brains and the best government, or best persons in the government. But if our nation is not returned to God, it will never succeed. And so it is my intention and hope that I will be able to, of course, build the church of the Anglican Church, but of course by extension the churches of our nation, to be able to respond to the situation in which our society, our nation finds itself, and be able to restore our nation for God. And then once that is happening, then indeed our economics, all other aspects of our nation will bloom.
A spectacle like you've never seen before. That's what Barbadians are being promised of next week's Independence Parade, which will have several new features, including the performance of a special jingle and a new location. Sharika Griffith reports.
The Independence Parade will not take place at the Garrison Savannah this year. Instead, Barbadians will have to venture to Kensington Oval to view the skill and dexterity of those on parade. That's among several changes announced by Chair of the Interministerial Committee in charge of planning, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostick.
The actual march off from Kensington, in this case, through to Bridgetown, will not be led by the armed units, but by the Girl Guides Association. And this is in recognition of the celebration of their centenary. The Prime Minister herself will deliver an independence message on the parade, which is also something new.
5,000 school children have been invited to participate in the parade. Culture Minister John King believes this is important because there seems to be a disconnect between the importance and significance of independence.
As the parade passes on its way to Heroes Square, there will be 7 bands from secondary schools, which again gives our young people, our young musicians, our young people into the arts, the opportunity to express themselves. And specifically, we've requested that any of the music that they play along the streets is going to be Barbadian music.
There's also to be a procession through the city where community groups and Barbadians who have been outstanding in the areas of sports and culture will feature prominently. Minister King is encouraging all Barbadians to come out and take part in the celebrations. He says it will send a message to the world that Barbados is a strong, united society looking to move forward. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Chief of Staff of the Barbados Defence Force, Colonel Glenn Granham, believes the Independence Parade could attract twice the number of people this year. He says planning started in October and is now at an advanced stage. Well, Colonel Granham is confident things will come off seamlessly.
Barbados would have been accustomed to the Prime Minister receiving the salute opposite government headquarters as the parade leaves the garrison and marches into Bridgetown. Coming the reverse way this year, she is consented to receive the salute in Heroes Square. So the elements, the sort of standard elements that Barbados has grown to know, appreciate, love, and celebrate our independence are all retained within the parade.
Well, Barbadians are being assured that plans and contingencies are in place to ensure their safety as they take in the festivities on Independence Day. Senior Superintendent of the Royal Barbados Police Force, Bruce Rowe, says police will be working alongside the Barbados Defence Force. The two entities will be maintaining order in the parade area at Kensington Oval, as well as the procession through the city.
We have applied for regulations to close off and shut down some roads. You'll be given all the information how to access Kensington Oval before the parade and after the parade. We have also identified park and ride sites so as to eliminate the volume of traffic coming into the parade site. So I want to assure you that we have our security plans include the security of the Oval, the security along the route, and the security of the children and all Barbadians that will be at that parade.
Well, the recent spate of gun-related crimes committed by young men is causing some concern for the top brass of the Royal Barbados Police Force. Acting Commissioner Erwin Boyce says the force has done very well in bringing the perpetrators to justice in a timely fashion. But it's also important to find out how they're getting access to the firearms in the first place.
The fact that we are seeing 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds accessing firearms is something that would worry the force, because at the end of the day, we believe that they cannot pay for farm. So therefore there must be some link that we must explore from a police perspective and bring before the system. And that is one of the areas that we are working on with some degree of diligence and vigilance.
And given that Barbados does not manufacture guns, the acting commissioner says the force is working with several partners to address the issue of illegal importation.
Border security plays an integral role in the national security of Barbados, and as a matter of fact, what gets into Barbados. Hence, we continue to build that relation with the critical border security partner and develop intelligence that would enable us to pursue whatever leads or whatever direction the intelligence would take us.
Meantime, a senior law enforcement officer believes it's time that Barbados should have a witness protection program. Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police Oral Williams says out of fear, many people are only willing to assist police off the record. And he believes witness protection legislation could be the answer to this problem.
I've been speaking to some detectives who are saying that increasingly people are willing to come and tell you, I have seen, I have heard, but when it comes to jotting it on paper and going to court, they're reluctant to do that. So the answer to your question is yes. We need not only witnesses, but all the players in the criminal justice system.
Well, staff at the Barbados Water Authority will have to wait a while longer to find out how many of them will be going home under government's BERT program. This from General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Senator Tony Moore. She was speaking to the media following a 7.5-hour meeting with the BWA's board late last night.
The context for the discussions have not been set, so determinations on numbers have not been made. What the authority has signaled is that, like other state-owned enterprises, they would be looking first and foremost at the rudiments which have been established at the level of the social partnership. They have signaled an intention to look at voluntary separation, and they had also expressed an interest when we get into discussions for honoring last in, first out.
Well, Senator Moore explains some other issues had to be clarified before any other discussions could take place.
We've reached agreement on the 5% increase being applied to staff of the Water Authority. There was agreement reached 2 years ago on merit increments that were owed to staff. However, the implementation of those still had to be finalized, especially at a time where the government's position has been, the management of the Water Authority's position has been that it cannot afford a payout of any large sum of money in cash. So we have been working through the rudiments of how the agreement would be met.
Children who use school meals should soon have some healthier choices available to them. And this from Acting Minister of Education, Senator Lucille Moe. She was addressing a joint meeting of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados and the Healthy Caribbean Coalition titled Beyond the Call to Action Towards School Policies in Support of Childhood Obesity Prevention. Senator Moe says the Education and Health and Wellness Ministries are in discussions to develop a comprehensive plan on what should be provided to children.
The Ministry of Education will continue to collaborate with relevant entities along with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to implement strategies that will reduce or halt obesity among school-aged children. And I would just like to say that the ministry has been looking, because you know we provide school meals, and we've been looking at the menu that we currently provide. And we have made a decision to modify and change that menu in the interests of the children.
Meanwhile, Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, says to effectively tackle childhood obesity, a national plan involving all stakeholders, including vendors, is necessary.
We must develop a relationship of understanding and of trust. And even though we would like them to make some significant changes in what they are selling to our children, we must remember that what they're doing is a commercial activity and enterprise. And they are only going to sell the things that our children are going to purchase.
The fight against non-communicable diseases and childhood obesity is intensifying in local primary schools. The Vauxhall Primary School has become the latest institution to encourage and promote healthy eating habits. One of those efforts includes the creation of the Fruit Friday initiative, which senior teacher Harriet Blackman says will boost nutrition.
On Fruit Fridays, we encourage our children to eat more fruits. We want to eat fruits every day, but on Friday especially, we want to eat more fruits. So today we started selling fruits for the children who didn't bring a fruit to school to encourage not only children but all members of staff to eat more fruits on Fridays. That's what we started in conjunction with the Ministry Healthy Lifestyle. So we are doing Fruit Fridays, we're doing Water Wednesdays, where we encourage them to drink more water on Wednesdays.
The Christchurch-based school is also promoting healthy snacks for students during school hours.
No salt chips, what we call the grain from Hibisco, plantain chips, cassava chips. We actually just introduced dasheen chips. Yes, made from dasheen. And yes, the children eat them. So we only sell whole wheat biscuits, no salt chips, and as I said, cassava chips, plantain chips, no chocolates, no sugar snacks.
As focus is placed on solutions to manage the influx of sargassum seaweed, the Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Kirk Humphrey, says a different approach is needed to tackle the issue. Mr. Humphrey told the second regional sargassum symposium the seaweed, which is deemed a threat and a problem, presents a number of opportunities. The two-day symposium is being jointly hosted by the University of the West Indies and the Food and Agriculture Organization. Well, the minister, who has been tackling the seaweed since assuming office, says the sargassum also presents opportunities for government to deepen its partnerships.
We have to deepen our partnership with CERMES and all of the University of the West Indies. We have to deepen our partnership with the FAO and all of the other UN agencies and all the other international agencies. And we have to deepen our partnerships even within government. So the relationship between the Coast Guard and the NCC and the Marine Police and Fisheries Division and everybody who is involved in this, we have to have much more frequent and intense conversations. And I believe that this presents us with an opportunity for us to do so. I also feel that there are conversations that we needed to have that we weren't having.
Mr. Humphrey welcomed the provision of much-needed funds following a debate in Parliament.
In Parliament, we approved some small funds, finally, specifically to tackle the sargassum issue. Because this year, sargassum seems not to want to stop coming. And my fear is that if it is still coming all the way now as we approach December, and I'm seeing it on the West Coast, that next year might be a horrific year for me. And I do not wish to be faced with June this next year, what I was faced with in June this year, where we had an issue and I didn't have the capacity to respond.
Superlative. It means to the highest quality or degree. So we've come to Superlative St. George to find out what about this community fits the definition. On a walkabout in Superlative searching for some answers, I came across an auto mechanic shop. 67-year-old Frederick Mapp has been operating his business here for well over 25 years and is in no doubt about what makes Superlative special. He says it's the unusually high number of centenarians.
We had the Applewhite. We had Padma, my aunt, who lived here. Okay, she lived 101 and 6 months. Okay, there were another lady down there called Maud. Okay, she lived over 100 to the guy up the hill, the sergeant. live over 100 too, okay?
Mr. Mapp also says a bus company located nearby meant the community was once a hive of activity.
In that corner, here you see where St. George Bus Company was, that was owned by the Simpsons, okay? The two last daughters were around there were Carnetta Simpson and Beryl Simpson. Those were the two sisters, okay? It's a very active area, okay? As I said, the bus company was over there, so, you know, bus would be always in and out, you know, during the day.
That's not the only thing that has changed. One of the positives has been road improvements. But not all the changes, he thinks, have been for the better.
Years ago, everybody had, in the area, had canes growing, okay? They would plant yams, they would plant cassava, potatoes, all that thing around the place, okay? And maybe much younger, they had plum trees around the area, mango trees, you know, and so it was never out anything.
And that selfless sharing was extended to those visiting the community as well. So much so, says 63-year-old Brenda Cox, outsiders didn't want to leave.
And everybody who comes in don't want to go back out. Because we roast berry fruit and everybody, we knew, my son used to cook on a tree and everybody come and get a plate and get their food. And they don't want to go back, they want to come back the next day, never be all time.
From superlative, we traveled over to prerogative. Now, prerogative is defined as a right or privilege exclusive to a particular individual or class. So we wanted to find out what exclusive right they enjoy that the rest of us don't. At Carmen's, where a few people have gathered for a cool drink on this hot day, one man took on the challenge to explain what the people of prerogative can lay claim to that others can't.
When you do a prerogative, we would generally say we had celebrities of the prerogative. Mr. Dickinson, just across the road there, was a man who ran for parliament with a nice socks here. That was not the case, but that was back then, back in the 50s, right? When we had a scholar came out in here also, Owen Estrick. He's a man you could sit there and talk to, okay? Want to talk to something in positive situation, especially cricket.
He also says prerogative has more than its fair share of pillars of the community.
We have the Carters, the Phillips. Down the far corner we got the Walcotts, right? These are people, the buyers, okay? These are people that they say, man, you are nice people.
And for the residents in general, being nice is a common trait, according to Michael Miller, who operates a business here.
I could go to any of my neighbors and ask anything. Once there's available, they will give me. They could come to me and ask me a favor. It's that camaraderie between us here in this neighborhood.
The 58-year-old says he's lived in prerogative all his life and has seen it change from a place producing mostly sugarcane to vegetables being the dominant crop. Yet, despite the changes, the fundamentals which make a cluster of houses a community remain the same. So we ended up here at prerogative, and before that we went to superlative, two communities in St. George with interesting names to remember as we continue to go coast to coast.